Welcome to the Teachers Pep Rally. If you missed our last episode, we had a conversation with the director from the International Dwight School, Brantley Turner. We discussed the International Baccalaureate program and helping our students find their spark. Please go back and check it out. And while you're there, leave us a review. We value you and these conversations. Our guest has been in education for over 22 years. She has a wide experience in the profession, having spent time in elementary school and coaching high school cheer and dance team. In fact, she started Oregon's first special need competitive cheerleading squad. That cheer squad inspired her to go back into special education. Hence, she is currently and has been teaching high school special education and community transition for the last 13 years in Washington. Let's talk about life and learning. Please welcome to the Teachers Pep Rally, Heidi von Marbod.
Woo!
Heidi!
Should have had pom-poms.
We should have had pom-poms. We will plan next time. Welcome, Heidi.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we get started, and I feel like Letitia, I've just set her up perfectly if she's in the cheer and dance team coach, right? For our happy happenings. So do you want to explain to everyone what we're doing before we start our conversation?
Absolutely. Well, welcome again, Heidi. Just want to share with you, this season we've decided here at the Teachers Pep Rally to really start off every episode with some happy happenings. Our work can be challenging and rewarding, and the news feed sometimes can make us a little down. So here we like to highlight the good stuff. Something that made us smile, laugh, sparked a little gratitude, just our way of sending some light and love into the world. So we'll go around and share our happy happenings, and we certainly hope that you have something for us this evening. Okay?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Pete, let's start with you. Happy happening.
Yeah. My son is the guitarist of a rock band, and he's the youngest in the group. And they had their first live set. They played in our town square, right outside the farmers market. And they did Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins and the Kinks and the Beatles. And I was so proud. But I just sat in the back and watched. And it just filled me up with such joy to see him doing something that I had nothing to do with and shining. And the confidence as a sixth grader, I never had that. And then a gentleman came up and mentioned, hey, I played for 45 years. I toured for 13, You got it, kid. He was really complimentary. And I just sat back there and just watched and soaked it all in. So I've been riding that wave since Saturday. It was such a great time. So yeah.
That's awesome, Pete. That's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah, really cool.
Did you catch a little video?
I got it. Yep. Lots of videos. Yeah.
Good. I love that. Pass it around. We love that. We love that. We've been together so long, it kind of feels like we're all kind of growing up together.
Grown up with you guys.
I love that. So Fred, what you got for us this week?
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming to the end of the term, right? And with that comes the summer season and seeking internships, which is really a process we could spend a whole episode on, right? Is that preparation phase. And I had the greatest conversation yesterday with a business owner who you have to explore what the opportunity is and make sure it's a fit and so on. And the thing that I loved about the conversation was all of a sudden she started to talk about this young fellow who's a friend of his daughter's. And before you know it, it's a guy that I've known for like 15 years. He's a former student himself. He's an incredibly gifted developer, software type. And all of a sudden we're reconnecting and we're going for coffee and we're going to just kind of catch up on things. But it just reminded me of how small the world really is and how many times we touch on people and we get to connect. And it was just a fun conversation because I just couldn't believe it was like a name drop conversation. So it was really good to finally see that he's still doing really well. And we're going to we're going to go for coffee. So it's good. Cool.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that, Fred. I just always admire how rooted you are in your community and how, you just interconnect with so many people. I love it. So guys, prior to starting our taping, we talked about Heidi having her doggie next to her. So my happy happening happens to be about a dog. So I'm minding my own business. Imagine that. And on Sunday, and I see the stray dog as I'm with my dog. And it didn't have a little, no collar, but it had a little vest and he looked scared. And Eventually, I was able to coax the little guy, which I didn't know it was a little guy then, into the house. And I took pictures and I put him on Ring, to see if someone would claim him. Monday rolls around, no hits. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this little guy? So I took him to the vet to see if he had a chip, and no chip. But I learned that he was a boy, about 2 or 3 years old. And the vet tech said, if you go to this site, they'll blast it on Facebook for folks that have lost their pets or if you found a pet. So, I upload the little guy's picture and, put him on there. And eventually I get a notification from Ring. Apparently it was my neighbor's dog who lives further down in the subdivision. And they were like, I think you have my dog. And I was like, really? Describe. What color was his vest? Because I'm not giving this dog to just anyone. And so they described him. They gave me the dog's name. And I started calling Rocky, Rocky, and his tail started to wag. And I was like, this is their dog. The happy happening was that although Rocky kept me up all night, because of course he was whining and crying, when the owner's son, the little guy, saw his dog, guys, the tears were running down his face. He was hugging the dog. I mean, I just was, me, guys, I'm a water, I start crying. And we were just all crying at the end of the cul-de-sac. And it was just a great moment. It was really great
that's a great story. That's a great story, Letitia.
To help him out. I did tell my husband, Will, I said, no small dogs for me. I'm a big dog girl. That going to the potty every hour is too much. But anyway, that's my happy happening, guys. It was a little long-winded, but Rocky was reunited with his family, family. I love
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Thank you, guys. Aaron, what you got for us?
Yeah, so I was sitting here thinking about, it's still April, which is National Poetry Month. I don't know if you know that. So if you've been going to some slam poetry or breaking out the books and reading your poetry. And in 2020, I did a series just in April with students, students that I'd already had, and for the most part had graduated or I didn't teach them anymore. And I said, would you be willing to come on and record with me one of your favorite poems? And that way it would be like a variety of poems. I'm not picking them. It's your opportunity to kind of share what you like about it. What's the theme or whatever. And so I did that for almost every day of the week in April. And all of a sudden, Facebook's been posting them as a memory for me to remember. And I've been watching them again. And even though that was only 3 years ago, I don't know about you all, but 2020 sometimes feels like it was yesterday. And other times it feels like it was 20 years ago.
Yes.
So it's just been a gift to see it all again. And I've just been reposting it. It just makes me happy. And it's also a little silly because I look at some of them and I'm like, oh my God, they grew so much in 3 years. Like some of them look like little babies and now they look like, young men, basically.
Well, that's cool.
It. Aaron, I remember when you were going to launch that project and I thought it was an awesome idea. It's so nice to see that it's still feeding you, right? All these years later, still feeding you. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Well, Heidi, it is your turn to share a happy happening.
So in my classroom, we focus a lot on budgeting and wants versus needs. And I have a student that has been saving for a trip to Disneyland all year. I hear about it every other day, and she finally went. And she brought me back a little pin. She took it off her own lanyard and gave it to me to put on mine. And, out of those treasured things, that is right up there on top of her list. And it just meant a lot to me.
That's really neat.
Oh, that
Very
is
cool.
so sweet. Thank you so much, Heidi, for sharing. I tell you, the kids get us every time, don't they? I love that. Well, thank you guys for sharing your happy happenings. Always want to encourage our audience and our friends here at TPR to share. Try this at home at your kitchen table with your peeps. So, Erin, why don't you take us away? Let's take a deep dive.
Yeah, so Heidi, you mentioned your classroom. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your role. I think it's special education, and then it's this community transition. It's kind of a nice long title, but tell us what that means, what you're doing out in Washington.
Okay, so by law, students can go to school through their 21st birthday if they are in special education, but it's not always appropriate for somebody to go to the high school setting for 7 years. They want to have that milestone and moving on to the next thing as well. So we provide an opportunity for them to go to my class that is for students that have finished their typical 4 years, and it's for students that are 18 to 21, and they stay through their 21st birthday if need be. We don't just boot them out at 21. And we're community based. So my classroom is purposely not held on the high school campus. And we let them walk with their typical class and go through all those rites of passages. And then they come to me and we focus on what happens when the bus stops coming. What is your life going to be filled with? And we have a huge employment focus, but we also have a community resource focus. And how are you going to have a full, rich life?
Wow. I don't think I really picked that up on that. So the location is off campus. And is it part of the school district, or is it a community type location, or how's it situated?
Districts get really creative. I've taught this program for 2 different school districts. One of the school districts I taught in, it was in an apartment. It was an amazing opportunity. And then right now I'm held in a portable classroom that also has a kitchen on a middle school campus. My students don't participate in any part of the middle school, but we just so happen to be located on that campus.
Oh, wow.
A lot of different models. There's another model in Spokane that's actually on a college campus, even though it's still under that school district umbrella.
Beautiful.
That's awesome. So basically they're starting to leave that routine of high school, which you think for any kid who's doing that, regardless of what the next pathway is, it can be daunting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
For your kiddos, that 18 through 21, that transitioning is an opportunity for you to teach them some kind of independence and basic life skill lessons, right? So I gave you a little bit of homework because I thought it'd be great for us to kind of hear what that might look like. So can you give us a couple of things that you do in your classroom to support your students in transitioning?
Yes. So we want to build their soft skills. So every day my students are in the community volunteering. And we also try to take into their accounts of their interests, but a lot of times they're in a discovery process. They're not sure what they want to do for their career or their job. So I'm so lucky that I'm located in Cheney, which is outside of Spokane, and we are a college town that has a little friendly microcosm of a community with a city bus that goes in a loop around Cheney. And I have a lot of local down-home businesses, and we go into those community partners and we volunteer and build our soft skills. And then when students feel like they're ready, I connect them with the Division of Vocational Rehab, and we get them ready to apply for paid employment. And we also participate in some programs that lead up to that point, such as job foundations and school to work. And those opportunities are just so valuable for them to get real purposeful experience, not manufactured. They're right in there with their natural supports with employees and coworkers. Some of them are supported by my staff and myself as job coaches. Some of them have that support to begin with, and then we fade, and they're supported naturally at that environment.
Excellent.
It's incredible.
Yeah, that is amazing. That is amazing, Heidi. And, I may have shared this before, that I have had students that have participated, and I would go to a particular grocery store because I love seeing him engaged in the community and working and serving and earning a living. So that is awesome. Can you share a little bit with us about, the impact also on the parents of these students, right? Because it can be daunting.
Yes.
For parents. And so could you share a little bit about, the impact on parents?
Yes, it can be really overwhelming when your child turns 18 and all of a sudden they're now can utilize all these services now that they're 18, and it's so overwhelming for parents. And I help them navigate those systems. They need to apply for DDA and DVR and all the acronyms and all the things and SSI, and it's a lot. And to walk them through, I have 3 years to walk them through that process. So it has to be a team collaboration. And we also want to take into account, what is life going to look like for the family? Like, do they plan to have them live with them, maybe in a mother-in-law apartment? Do they plan to maybe look at a group home? And can we go places and visit those settings so that everybody can make an informed decision? I have the blessing of being able to do community inclusion days every single Friday, where we go and visit a different resource in Spokane, or we take advantage of a community event and we get to be included with people, peers in the community. So this coming Friday, we're going rock climbing with Courageous Kids, and it's one of my favorite community inclusion events of the year. It's just so impactful and amazing.
How many students will participate in that usually?
In my classroom, it is 12.
Oh, wow.
Rock climbing, I tell them they all need to go and share everybody on. So everybody will go, and hopefully they will all climb.
So I like, Letitia, that question about the parents, and I'm trying to imagine, Heidi, what that must be like for you, especially if you've got 3 years, so to spread it out. So hopefully it's not too overwhelming. And just, I only know a couple of things. I probably have made assumptions, or I don't know all of it, but does that involve you sitting down with the parents and the families and literally pulling out the paperwork, from the government of like, here's their rights, here's the things that you're able to get, let's walk through and fill out the paperwork? Like, can you dive a little bit deeper and give me some more details on that?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what happens. We see typically an IEP team meet once a year. That is not the case for my classroom. We meet as many times as we need to, each and every step of the way. And a lot of times those processes take extra testing, or who can we access to be an advisor to meet. Sometimes those systems are challenging for me to navigate, but I have, a great team of resources in Spokane that I reach out to, and I find those answers. And as a parent, I put out a monthly newsletter so we can all be on the same page about everything that's available to them that month. And I really encourage parents to, this is the 3 years for them too. I'm hosting lunch in a couple of Fridays for some first responders in Cheney, and I invite the parents to come in and meet those first responders as well, so that the first time those students encounter those folks, it's a positive experience, and they get to see those faces in the community. So the parent component is huge. I always tell folks, if you have it all dialed in and you don't need these services, I really hope that you would take a second look and revisit transition and staying, because I don't think parents get nearly enough help, and they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
It's a transition for them too, is what I'm sitting here thinking, and wasn't thinking about that coming into this conversation with you, right? Like, that's a major transition for them too, especially for your wonderful community of kids that you're working with, because the parents and guardians, I assume, are even putting even more into the care of their children every day because of their special needs, right? So to start trying to feel like you've got to start letting that go a little bit, that feels like a little bit of that control is going. I would imagine the hope would be that each year, or each cohort of kids you have for, the 3 years or so, that they become a tight-knit group so they can also rely on each other, right? Because I'm sure you sound like the type of person where you're like, I'm always here, once your teacher, always your teacher. But, the parents also need to make sure they have that support group moving forward. Am I right?
100%. And a lot of times it's connecting the parents with each other, because they're going to be each other's lives long after school is there. And who can you turn to? Parents sometimes have the best information that I don't have when they're standing on the sideline out at that birthday party, talking to each other with those informal conversations. That is invaluable, those connections that they make. And then think about what can you give back to these families that might mourn the loss of those typical milestones that gen ed students have. And how can we help families navigate back to those milestones? There's a community college in Spokane called PACE, People Accessing Careers in Education, at Spokane Community College campus. And my students go there. They're allowed to take a class there every quarter so that they come to me and them, and I help them work on transportation to get there. And the parents can feel the pride in saying, you know, my child is a college student too.
I would imagine some of the parents have a harder time, or the students might have an easier time transitioning than the parents do then. You know, I mean, any parent we all struggle with that, letting that go, but they're ingrained in so much in their lives, right? So they're having a hard time just letting that all out. That's amazing though.
Yeah,
So-
that first meeting in the fall when I'm like, you know what, your student pulled cookies out of the oven. They're like, they used the oven? What do you mean? I'm like, yeah, they did great. I made sure they were safe. Or I taught your student how to ride the city bus, and I'm going to shadow them this week. They're not going to know I'm there, but I'm going to shadow them to make sure that they can do it and that they're safe. And those parents can get really blown away. It's a confidence builder for everybody.
Good for you. That's awesome.
Heidi, you're such an advocate, and these are such valuable experiences and connections you're making. Let's continue talking about that family. If you could say, hey, just in general, I know these parents would like us to know this about their person, their young adult, their kid, their loved one. What would you want to share with us? What is something that they would want us all to know?
That everybody has a place in this world. Even a part-time job isn't about a job. It's about your sense of community, and they want their child to be part of that community, not just access it, be included in it. That when they look at their child, they have all the same hope and dreams as those gen ed families, and to not discount even volunteer work gives purpose and is valuable to those hearts that access that. And I think that parents just they want all the same things that gen ed families want.
I think you bring up a great point, Heidi, and it was almost you kind of wove it in, but I love that you made the point about having to grieve. Right, when a parent gets this diagnosis, right, about their baby, they have to kind of grieve some of these things. And I know as not a former teacher, but classroom teacher, you know, that was tough for parents. So my heart just is warm just to know that you're out there in the world, that it's, to your point, you know, this gives them back that hope, right, that they can see their babies baking cookies and catching the bus and working at a job. So I just absolutely love that you're doing that kind of work. And as Aaron stated, I am sometimes labeled the guru of self-care and wellness here on the TPR. Can you give, and we're going to stay with families, maybe even some strategies or tips for parents, families to take care of themselves, like respite, for example. I know some families use respite where they're able to take a little break there.
Yeah, I'd like to circle back to some national models. When it comes to, you know, every state has these opportunities, they just look a little differently. When we look at the Division of Developmental Disabilities Association, I know it's called something different in every state. And I was looking up, you know, what it was called in Georgia. And it's called, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes.
It's okay.
See, shoot, okay, here's my other notes. Okay,
I hope peach is not in the title. It's in every title of everything down here. Gosh.
That or Ponce de Leon.
yeah. It's called Developmental Disabilities Department of Behavioral Health. It's a mouthful. Okay. It's a lot. And basically, because I know a lot of people from different states listen to this podcast, that you need to go back to your DDA case manager, every child that is enrolled in DDA, and you need to ask what transition services are available to families. And in Washington, there's pots of money. One of them is respite. I'm so glad you bring that up. One of them is community inclusion dollars. one of them is like job coaching dollars, and DVA isn't great about educating families that they're allotted those 3 pools of money, and you don't get what you don't ask for. So I really encourage families to seek out respite dollars. And I always tell parents, you need to have date night, and it's perfectly normal to make sure that your relationships are healthy so that you can give everything that you can to your child when they need it. If you're not staying afloat, how can you help your child? And sometimes families feel guilty about accessing those dollar amounts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you mentioned, though, going back now to the involving the community more and businesses, what kind of advice, or how do you direct a business if they do want to get involved with programs like this in their area? How do you kind of bridge that and make that happen for them?
I encourage people that teach what I teach to go to their business leaders and their
We've got a little special guest that's appearing, your dog. Don't worry about it, Heidi. We love pets and animals here, right?
I'm ready to put 'em in the
Rocky might be listening, Letitia.
Come on.
I'm ready to put him in the car. I'm going to go put him in the car in the garage.
Don't worry about it.
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay. All right. So your question was
About business partnerships and how they support you and your kiddos.
so the Lions Club, the Better Business Bureau breakfast, all those local agencies that get together and have meetings once a month. Ask if you can come and present and share personal stories about your students and success stories. Success stories are the most powerful people to create buy-in about students that have done it and are making it and are succeeding in all those areas: daily living, personal, social skills, and employment. That's my best advice, and seek out your local businesses. There's not as much red tape, and they're invested in those kids in their community because they're part of their community. You want students placed right where they live, to make those community connections, not be placed, sometimes too far away, and you want them in their neighborhoods.
I love that idea, though, like I said, though, about making kind of a pitch at these organizational meetings. I think that's something that definitely goes under the radar screen in so many areas. And I'm involved in volunteering on different levels. And, we always wonder, where are the people? Where are the community members? Why aren't they getting involved? And a lot of times it simply comes down to the organizations not letting the community know when they're meeting. So that's a great reminder for anybody that's listening that's part of the Lions Club or these other organizations, the VFW or anywhere. Like, you can get these young people involved just by inviting them in, because they'll come. It sounds like they'll come. Yeah.
You also want to make sure that you ask parents, do you have any friends that own businesses? What are your connections? What are your family connections? And you want a job card where somebody might not see that there is a position there. You say, tell me about your business. We can fill that niche in that void. And as you know, the gifts that students give are sometimes so much more to the business than just the work that the student is doing there.
I'm also thinking about recreational places, that those might be a good partnership. I kind of had a list and you're going through them all, because I was going to ask you, how do you provide your students with the knowledge and resources for employment opportunities, which you're doing, continue education, at least where you are. There's, we can look at community colleges and their programs that they might offer, recreational and community activities. It's just amazing. So I'm wondering, I'm kind of thinking back to the kids at the schools or even within the community. We really talk a lot here about making sure that we're inclusive. So what are ways that educators at schools and school leaders can ensure that all the voices of the students are being heard, or they feel like they're being seen, right? Because we don't want to just put someone in a classroom and keep them all day. Everyone is part of the school community. So what are some tips you might have for us to make sure that we're doing that?
Well, we are so lucky that we have the Special Olympics West Plains team right here in Cheney. I asked my students not participate with the high school teams anymore, that they transition into those adult teams. And in those teams, there's also teams that are called Unified, where you have gen ed folks participating with special needs folks, and some real natural friendships and relationships are formed there. And then also therapeutic rec services. Most cities have that. I would recommend that parents seek out their Parks and Recreation Department. And within that, there should be therapeutic rec services, and those DDA dollars can pay for those activities. I was blessed to be able to coach special needs snowboarding for our therapeutic rec services division for a couple of years, and it was a win-win for me. I got to go snowboarding, and they got to have a fun, to sometimes coach me, and I coached them.
Yeah, I'm going to actually ask you a question about that. Has there been anything that you've seen over your years that's just kind of a fun or interesting thing, or for some reason always stays in your mind, of a kid that found some kind of passion, something like you mentioned earlier, the kid who had been saving to go to Disneyland, right? But has there been any other kind of fun things that that one of your students was really passionate about and made sure to advocate that was important to be in their life?
Yeah, I've had some male students love cheerleading. Like, it is really surprising and cool that they really took to cheerleading. And that just makes me so happy. And sometimes they're saving up for a car that they won't even drive, but that their families, that they want their family to drive them around in. And it just cracks me up, and it's just wonderful. Yeah, they inspire me with their giving hearts too. Like, just the things that they want to make sure that their families are remembered. We always go shopping as a class around the holidays, and they want to make sure that they're remembering their families too, and have those funds. And we talk about budgeting and wants and needs, and just some beautiful moments come out of those Friday community inclusion days. We're going to the theater in a couple of weeks. We're going to Christian Youth Theater to see Mary Poppins, and we'll get to talk about theater etiquette, and they get to dress up fancy. It's going to be great.
I feel like everybody needs you, Heidi.
Everybody. And no, I agree. Everybody. She's a big hug.
We just need you. You know, I'm thinking about, and I hate to date myself, but you know, way back in the 70s, you know, when I was growing up and coming through school, you know, our special needs children were like literally almost in the basement, like I mean, you needed a map to find them, you know, I mean, it's really sad. And so as you're just sharing your work and the community and the parents, it's just so wonderful and beautiful to just see how you're breaking the stigma. We're including them in the community where they should be. I mean, this is just good stuff. I'm trying not to cry here.
Yeah.
It's reminding me of, oh, go ahead, Pete. Go ahead.
Thanks. Heidi, since you said theater, I got to jump in.
Yeah.
What is this Shining Star Theater?
Okay, so we have a theater group. We have two. We have one that just started in Spokane, and we have one in Coeur d'Alene, which isn't far from us, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And they're shadowed behind them, and they don't have the pressure of having to remember their lines. They're helped with their lines, and it's beautiful moments. It's pretty incredible if you've never seen it before.
So it's an inclusive theater company.
Yes, very well said.
Oh, wonderful. That's great. Sorry, Aaron. Thank you.
No, that was wonderful.
Yep.
You know, also Heidi is a Disney fan. I don't know, you know, our YouTubers, if you'll notice, there's two Mickey Mouses hanging out in the background. Heidi's got a really cool classic Mickey telephone. I've been watching Fred eye that. So Heidi, it's a good thing you're on
I know. I was like,
the United States. I'm curious because we talk a lot here about making sure we share our passion with our students. So obviously you're sharing it with your students because the student brought you back a pin from the park, knowing that would mean a lot to you. But what are some ways that maybe you incorporate Disney into your classroom or lessons? Do you mind sharing that with us?
I'd love to. So every day we start out with celebrations. A big thing at Disney, is I know you know, Aaron, is what are you celebrating? That's what they always ask you. What are you celebrating? Mm-hmm. So we start every day with that. What are you looking forward to? What are you celebrating? It can be as little the mundane or the super exciting. And so I love starting the day that way. It is just some beautiful moments come out of that. And we really set an intention of positivity. And the other thing I do is to teach soft skills in my class. I go through a 1970 oh man, it's a 1956, or it's a super old manual for Disney University back then, was how they train their employees. And I've developed a slide deck around how do we infuse those soft skills into what kind of employees we're going to be. And I go through with a lot of quotes from Walt and Roy, and a lot of funny pictures from how things used to be dressed and how you dress now. And it's super fun. I always tell people my class it's not so much Disney themed, it's really Walt themed because it's age appropriate with them. And I focus on the customer service aspect that they do to train their cast members. It's just incredible. If you've ever been to Disney, which I know many of you have, it's impeccable. And to bring that enthusiasm and that energy into my classroom and into my students is something that I really strive for.
I would think that that's an incredibly unique thing. I think Disney might like to know that. That would be a neat thing to do, taking their core training package and you're using it in such a unique way. That's fantastic. It's fun.
I would love to figure out a way how to get my students included in the Disney College program.
Huh.
So that's a long-term goal.
I see you, Heidi. We talked. All right, Heidi. So I have a question for you. Is there a teacher, a coach, a mentor, someone from growing up that you'd like to shout out, share the story, lift them up? We'd love to hear it.
Oh, yes. So I was born at 6 months. I weighed 1 pound, 14 ounces. I had a 10% chance of living back in 1976. So technology was not what it is today. So I had some learning challenges growing up. I think it makes me a better teacher that learning did not come. And finally in college, I connected with an advisor, Marlene Bain, and she made sure I got the support I needed to be successful in college. And I would not have been able to do it without her. She believed in me. She made sure that I got to be such good friends with my tutor that I was in her wedding.
That's awesome.
I can't thank her enough. She gave me the gift of getting my education.
It's fantastic.
That's why we love this part of the whole conversation, because it's just always that reminder of everyone needs someone that is their supporter, right? Someone that they feel like is cheering for them. And we can't assume that everyone has that. So I love that story. So we're going to kind of, I don't know about you all, but I'm just like in all the good feels right now. We're going to kind of, if it's okay with you, Heidi, we like to highlight some things that maybe you said that either inspired us or got us thinking about something else, or we just want to make sure we bring that back forward to the conversation so people remember it. And then you as our guest get to say the last word. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Letitia, I'm going to call on you first.
Okay. Well, Heidi, 2 times you almost made me cry tonight. I just want you to know it is an absolute honor to be speaking with a miracle on this evening. You are a miracle. That is awesome. That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
But I think the thing that really stuck out earlier on in the conversation was when you said there's a place for us all in this world and in our community. There is a place for each and every one of us. And I think now more than ever, that's a message that needs to be resounding from all of our work, whether in the classroom, outside of the classroom, that we all have a special spark, pixie dust to add to the world. So thank you for your work. And again, this is awesome. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Great. How about you, Fred?
So normally we always key on certain catchphrases, but I think Aaron, you said it pretty directly just a second ago. You really sparked some new ideas in my mind about making these connections. And you said one thing earlier on about how college campuses near you are able to facilitate or have space that kind of makes certain things happen. I have good relationships with our Human Development Family Services degree program right down the hall from me, and I'm going to talk to them about that and see what we need to do, because I think it opens up other doors. But I love the idea how you also reminded everybody that anybody has a role in this. It's not just a teacher; it's local businesses, it's local organizations, it's local churches. It's it's everybody. It's like you said, it's the community. And I think that's just a great call to action and a great reminder that I hope when everyone's listening to this, for the next few days, that they can think about how they could take action to become involved in these programs. I think it would be awesome.
In that same thread, I forgot to mention that IEP meeting that happens annually, the big one. Invite everybody. My advice to parents is invite everybody. Invite your minister, invite your favorite aunt. How is everybody going to support this student when that yellow bus stop's coming? We want to be thinking ahead and making a plan for that day. And you hit the nail on the head with that notion.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
Heidi,
you.
You really make sure there's secure supports for people, not just when they're still in the school system, but even when they go beyond. That's what I keep hearing. How about you, Pete?
I'm going to piggyback on what Letitia started. I wrote down all of our special need teachers are angels on earth. My dad, he was a lifelong career teacher, and most of his time was a special ed teacher, special needs teacher in high school. And I remember growing up with him, going to Special Olympic events. He ran a summer camp, and it was so much fun, such giving, wonderful people. And I think looking back, I think that's when he was happiest. And looking at our episodes, I love when our conversations are with people who find their calling and they put 100% into it. And then the ripple effects are endless into the community. And I hope that's what you're doing. I hope the work you're doing. The ideas are brilliant in our short time together, that your ideas are brilliant. Your message is so inspiring and your work is essential. And I know we all thank you for all you're doing.
Yes.
You said the importance of helping for the parents to take time out and look out for themselves. I know the grind. I know what these special ed teachers and our special needs teachers go through. I hope you take care of yourself too and look out for yourself so you can keep doing this for our kiddos. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pete.
Did I ever tell you that so when I got my bachelor's degree, I minored in what they used to call adaptive physical education.
Right,
so that was that's just reminded me of some special times. Heidi, I'm so glad that you came on. I'm glad that we connected and the minute we met for something else. And as I started talking to her, I'm like, I think I blurted out to you also, and I go, I think you need to come on our podcast. I was like, this is amazing. So
You did.
I'm so glad we were able to make it happen. My takeaway really is I kept writing down, allow space for discovery, like no matter the person, no matter the student, no matter the community, right? Even like Fred, I love this thing that you're like thinking, maybe I can see how I can plug in or make sure that our school or our campus is plugging in and discovering new ways to reach other people. I think that's what it's about. It's about allowing space for discovery. And I'm thankful that you came on, Heidi. And you as our guest kind of get the last word. If there's anything that you didn't get a chance to say or something you just want to make sure we hear for all educators before we let you go.
Thank you for being champions in your own community. I love the work that you do, and it's inspiring. I work in isolation sometimes because I'm in a portable classroom, and I'm my own team. And it's so nice to tune in every week and hear the support of a team when I may not physically have one. So thank you for the work that y'all do as well.
We're here for
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. We're definitely here for you. And it's a collaboration. It's one of the reasons why we started this. So, reach out to us whenever you want to or need to, and or reach out into the Facebook group page. And if there's something that you just want support on or just need to be heard, that, please put it in that space, because that's what we're trying to make happen. Heidi, if someone wants to reach out to you, do you have a way that they can do that?
Yes, I'm happy to consult on transition projects. I consider it an honor. So my Gmail is my first name, Heidi, Heidi, and then Von Marbod, my last name, VonMarbod@gmail.com. You're welcome to reach me there.
Great. And your name too will be on the show notes and in the beautiful graphic that Pete will make for this episode.
Oh, I hope
Pete,
so.
how about our listeners?
Yeah. So guys, wherever you're listening to us, please leave us a review. Let's keep the conversation going and let's help spread the word so more people can hear about Heidi and the wonderful work she's doing in her community, and we can continue to help others. We're on Instagram, our Facebook group. Fred has our episodes on YouTube, and our website is teacherpeprally.com.
That's right. And also just a friendly reminder, we're about to finish up the second giveaway for Novel Effect. That's a free 1-year premium subscription. And in order to enter the drawing, all you got to do is make sure you're following us on the Teacher Pep Rally Facebook group. Easy for me to say. Introduce yourself to the group and then tell us a book you recommend from another country. Well, Heidi, thank you so much for coming on, especially because I know we're in totally different time zones. So as you can see, it's turning into evening for us, but hopefully you have a nice rest of the evening yourself. And reach out if you ever just want to collaborate or just need someone to keep cheering you on. That's what we're here for.
Yes.
Thank you, friends. Good night.
It was a pleasure, Heidi. Thank you.